Welcome to the very first episode of Budget Kitchen. Today we will be making a creamy, cozy potato soup you will love. First, start with 4 pounds of your favorite potato. I chose Yukon Gold, but red potatoes would also work well. So first, as you can guess, we're going to peel these bad boys. Since it's for a soup, it doesn't really have to be perfect. It's all going to get thrown in a pot and cooked up anyway. So if you have little bits of skin, just don't obsess over it because it's going to taste delicious. Oh, and also as a pro tip, if you peel straight into a garbage bag or a little grocery bag like I am, then it makes cleanup a lot easier. And I know I'm a busy mom, and I'm sure, even if you're not a mom, you can relate. We're all super busy. And next, we're going to boil the potatoes, and don't forget to add the salt. When I worked in restaurants, one of the tips they said was to make sure that your water is saltier than the sea for pasta, and I also do for potatoes as well. Next, cut 4 or 5 large carrots. Next, cut 3 or 4 ribs of celery. I like to do 3. I'm not really a huge celery person myself, but if you like it, add more. Then I'm going to take a medium onion, and as you can see, I almost always chop my onions pretty uneven because they make me cry and I hate chopping them, but the soup is still delicious. And then we have our vegetables. We're going to set those aside for a minute. Next, we're going to add our meat. I ended up using 2 pounds of this bacon and all the bratwurst there. I got the bacon, it was on discount. It was actually $1 for that whole pack. And then that was Aldi. I think that was like $1.50 for all that bratwurst. So we're just going to cook that up. Go ahead and cut your bacon into thirds and then flip it after about 3 or 4 minutes and cook it for another 3 or 4 minutes. And when you're all done, it should be a nice crispy consistency, and you want it to be pretty crispy for this next step. Go ahead and remove your bacon, put it on a paper towel to get some of that extra grease off, and then you're just going to take it and you're going to crumble it into little bits that's going to go into the soup. Then you will take about half of that bacon and save it for later for a nice, yummy looking topping for your soup. And then we have our lovely bratwurst. You can use whatever kind of sausage you like. I just bratwurst because it was on sale at Aldi, and this is Budget Kitchen where we like to keep it delicious and cheap. Go ahead and take your sausage out of its casing, and then you're just going to cut it in half and then cut it long ways, kind of right along there. Get my knife and I'll show you. You're just cutting it long ways, that's all. And then once we've cut the sausage into bite-sized chunks, like so in the picture there, we're going to go ahead and transfer that over to a pan and get it nice and cooked. Alright, so then you're going to take your bratwurst or whatever sausage you have, and you're going to go ahead and you're going to cook it just like you would ground beef. And I just cooked mine right into the yummy leftover bacon grease, because it adds a nice flavor to it, and it's all going to go, well, some of the grease is going to go into the soup anyway. We're going to save half of the grease when we're all done and put that into the soup because it helps thicken the broth once you add the thickening agent. We will be using cornstarch, but you could also use flour if that's what you happen to have lying around your house. We're just going to keep on grinding this up like you would if it was ground beef or like a spaghetti or something. And eventually it'll look like this. It's about the size of what you'd put in spaghetti, maybe a little bit bigger, but not too much. Then we're going to go ahead and cook up all of our vegetables in that leftover grease from the bacon and the sausage. Then you're going to add about 2.5 tablespoons of Italian seasoning, a little bit of paprika to taste, and some salt to taste, about a tablespoon of salt or so. While the vegetables are cooking and after your potatoes have been boiling for roughly 17 minutes, you're going to come over and you're going to add 64 ounces of whatever broth you like. I have Swanson here. You're going to do 1 chicken broth, 32 ounces, and 1 beef broth, 32 ounces. Next, take 3 or 4 cloves of garlic, or more if you really like garlic. You could probably do 5 or 6 and it would still be really tasty. Then you're just going to go ahead and you're going to mince the garlic and mince it and mince it and mince it, make it smaller and smaller and smaller until your garlic is about this size. The little cubes are about that size. At least you can make them smaller if you'd like. We like the taste of garlic, so this is a fine size for us. Next, take your minced garlic and add it to your veggie mixture. Cook it on medium-high heat for about 30 seconds, being careful to constantly stir it so that you don't burn the garlic. Then you're going to go ahead and take half of the bacon that you cooked and all of the sausage and put it with your broth and potatoes. And then you're going to add all your yummy veggies. And then you're going to go ahead and just give it a good stir. Make sure everything's, evenly distributed throughout. And then go ahead and add about 32 ounces of heavy whipping cream. You can also use milk. I've used milk before and it still tastes pretty good. You don't get as much of the creamy flavor though. But honestly, if you're looking to shave a few calories, you could probably just do milk instead. And next you're going to add about a pound or a pound and a half of cheese. And I just want to remind you guys that this is a lot of food. This feeds my family for like 4 or 5 nights, or a family of 5. I cook it for a couple days, freeze half, and it's delicious. And so if the portion thing seems big, you could always cut this in half if you don't need all this food. But we're a family of 5, so this is about, like I said, 4 or 5 dinners and maybe like a lunch of leftovers for us. Okay, and if you are smart, you will do this before this point. I was not smart. I completely forgot to do this beforehand. You actually want to go ahead and mash up the potatoes in the broth. I forgot to mention that before. So I just went ahead and I mashed up the potatoes and some of the vegetables. It still came out wonderful. My family still ate it up. But it's just easier to do if you mash the potatoes when they're with the broth. And then you end up with a nice sort of mashed potato consistency within the soup. It helps make the soup thicker. And as you can see, the soup's starting to come together rather nicely. The potatoes have been, somewhat mashed the best I could. Again, it's going to be easier to do that in the beginning before you add all this. So if you're doing this at home, just make sure you do that before you add all this stuff like I did. And also, I know I mentioned earlier about adding more grease to this if you need to. I personally don't think you'll need to. That was one of the adjustments that I made to this recipe a long time ago, because originally, when I found this recipe online, it called for way more grease than I thought was necessary. So I think it's fine like this, but you can, if you think it needs more, you can always add more, but I think that would be way too much. So then, to give the soup the best, creamiest consistency, you're going to do a cornstarch slurry, and I was filming this one-handed, so excuse the excuse the messiness there. But you're going to go ahead and mix 1 tablespoon of cornstarch with 2 tablespoons of water. I ended up doing this 3 times, so it ended up being 3 tablespoons of cornstarch and 6 tablespoons of water to get the thickness that I like. You can adjust that. I like it pretty super thick. After you stir in the cornstarch slurry and get it to the thickness that you prefer, it's time to go ahead and add the toppings. So we have a little bit of extra cheese, some of those bacon crumbles that we saved, and some sour cream. You could also add green onions on top of that. I didn't have any, and quite frankly, my family didn't really seem like they missed them all that much, but they are good with green onions as well. So there we have it. That is my warm and cozy fall potato soup recipe. My family loves it. I really like it. It's easy to make, and you can cook it in a big batch like I did and have dinner for several nights. Go ahead and leave me a comment about what your favorite soup is, and also please don't forget to like and subscribe. This is a new channel and I'd appreciate it a lot.